Hello, I'm Catherine McGuire. Welcome to the Soul Alchemist podcast. If you are on a journey of personal or spiritual growth, you are in the right place. It's my desire each week to share wisdom, inspiration, and practical tools with you to help you remember the essence, the glorious essence of who you are, and reconnect to your inner gold and be yourself truly, gorgeously, authentically, joyfully in the world. Welcome along. I have something fabulous for you today. I have one of life's gorgeous humans joining with me today to share their soul alchemy journey with you. But before I introduce you, I have an announcement. So if you have a pen and a piece of paper, if you have a diary, if you have a phone, write this down, save the date. On Sunday, the 26th of April, I am going to be in Dublin 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for an in-person potent soul alchemy experience. So if you're in Dublin, in Ireland, in the UK, or somewhere else, please come along and join me. I will have all the details next week, but for now, write the date in your diary, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., April 26th. Okay. Now, let me introduce you to my fabulous guest today. Today, we have someone with us who is a nature lover, a dog mom, an artist at heart, but, and yet, she works in the very technical field of race car engineering. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the one and only Kate Gundlach. Kate, welcome along.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an absolute honor to be on this. I'm so thrilled. Thank you.
Oh, it's so lovely to have you here. So lovely to have you here. Kate is one of life's good humans. She is a client of mine, but she is so much more. She is a ray of light in this world. So I'm really excited that people are going to get to hear from you today.
I'm excited to be here. I'm so excited. This is so cool.
I asked Kate would she be on the podcast. She was like screaming down the line. It was amazing. It was great. Before we get into your soul alchemy journey and what that is for you, race car engineering, it's not a normal kind of day job. So, do you want to just kind of tell people a bit about how you got into it, why you're in it, what you love about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I, in general, I work in race car engineering. That means that my job is to make specific race cars, different classes go fast. I work with the drivers directly and I make chassis adjustments. And well, I don't make them. I tell my crew chief to make my chassis adjustments. And the goal is obviously to win the races. And the goal is to be fastest in qualifying. And it's just trying to find a balance for my driver to figure out to give him or her the best car possible to achieve those things. And I've done this all my life straight out of college. I don't know how to do anything else. So that's a little concerning sometimes, but I got into it. I followed my parents were both into motorcycles and my dad was into racing. So I followed him to the track when I was a teenager, got a little motorbike myself and, had a good time. But I really loved the racing that he did. It was vintage motorcycle racing. So old Moto Guzzi's, old British bikes, old Italian, obviously Moto Guzzi bikes, and I loved it. I loved the transient lifestyle that was involved with it. I loved the community that came with it. I liked, how the machines worked, and I decided to pursue that in through school. And I come from a family of creatives. I'm the only trained engineer in my family, so everyone else has gone through art school or medical school or something that's not engineering based. So it was a bit of a challenge to pick engineering, but I really liked motorbikes. I really liked playing with that kind of stuff and wrenching on things. And the university I chose, which is local to me in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who had a Formula SAE program, which in the UK it's called Formula Student, but it's where or then in Europe Formula Student, where students design and build a Formula style race car. So no fenders, kind of looks like a Formula One car from the ground up. They have to do cost analysis, design analysis. They have to drive it in the competition. So that really pulled me in. And from that program, I made the jump from 2 wheels to 4 wheels. And from there, I decided I wanted to pursue racing as a career. And there was a local Formula Car team by my university who I talked into giving me an internship opportunity. So there wasn't one there. And they agreed um, to sign off on the paperwork if I worked for free. And I'm like, well, of course I'm going to work for free. I'm 20 years old. I don't know what I'm doing here. So I decided that I'm going to do that. And that's how I got into racing at that level and worked my way through like the college level ranks of professional motorsport with open wheel cars, and then making the jump to IndyCar a little about 14 years ago. So I do work in the IndyCar series, and I worked for a number of teams there, and I'm currently the lead engineer for one of the cars right now, and we will be competing in the Indy 500 this year and all 18 races. So it's been a bit of a journey, but it's one that's been an interesting path because it is a male dominated sport. I'm one of a very few women who work in there, and it's been a bit daunting. And one of the things that kind of drew me to you, Catherine, and to inner work was, things that come up in this business that I really needed to strengthen some muscles here. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is it is difficult being or like even looking different than everybody else. There, all the focus is everyone knows who you are. Everyone sees you everywhere you go. So that means that your mistakes are amplified compared to other people, but also your success. So if you work hard, if you present well, if you're friendly, if you're humble, if you're there to, for the right reasons, it's like you're wearing your resume on your sleeve and people will pick up on that. But at the same time, it gives you very little room for error because it's just worse. Everyone knows it.
And how many other female race engineers are there in the IndyCar series?
There's one other one, and we're buddies. And yeah, she and I always will get together and we'll chit chat and stuff. But what I do love about being a woman in racing is that you have a smaller community. There's a handful of us who are mechanics, engineers. There's one other lead engineer, and we kind of all get together and we have that little space, which is just it's very, very nice to have that type of community.
Wow, that's amazing. And like like obviously because I've known you for quite some time, and for the good or the bad, I do follow you when the racing season starts.
Mhm.
It's like I think some of my gray hairs are because of the IndyCar series.
Me too.
but, but what is it like? What is it that keeps you in the game? Because it's intense. Like when once the season starts, it's full on.
That's a great question because I ask myself that all the time too. Because when the season gets going, there are very, very few days off, and if they are, you never really turn off from work. And after the season ends, it takes about a month for your nervous system to reset after that. Um, I really enjoy learning, and I enjoy the immediate feedback that you get from your actions. So if I make a change to the car, I know within 4 laps whether my driver is happy or not. And okay, that didn't work. All right, let's understand why, and then let's make the next one. So I like that. I like the scientific process in that sense. I love the community with it. The people there are absolutely wonderful. We're all a bunch of high performing weirdos. Everyone will say that, and I love that about it. Um, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress. Your job is performance based. So if you don't do well, you can probably be looking for somewhere else to go. So it's having that in the back of your mind is always the ugly part of it, or the political side that you have to play sometimes with, um, um, the powers to be in a sense. But at the core of it, the pursuit of figuring something out, of ultimately winning, and the competition side, you want to beat everybody else, and then also the family atmosphere that comes with it is something that everybody loves, and everybody is quoted by saying misses when they leave it. So it's there's the pure essence of it I love, but there's a lot of stuff you got to put up with to to get there.
Which brings me nicely into my next question, a beautiful segue, which is why did you start your inner work journey?
Ooh, so I think my inner work journey happened in 2 phases. I didn't consider doing inner work until 2020. And I had been involved in racing since 2004. so so it's been a while. Um, and it started, honestly, it should have happened a long time ago, but hindsight is 2020, and you are where you are. Um, but when I was a kid, I suffer with some mental health issues that my parents and I didn't fully understand. And 20 years later, after experiencing those things, I came across a book who had experienced a very similar thing growing up, and I hadn't actually processed what had happened to me earlier until I started to read this book and found relationship there, and it was mind blowing that somebody else had a similar experience to me, and that somebody else was working through it, and I was actually discovering more about themselves um, and working with it, and it just brought so many memories and stuff flooding back. It's like maybe I should try something. Something didn't feel right in me for a while, and I couldn't put a name to it until I started to read this and realize through somebody else's experience that I might need some help there. And you were mentioned in the book and also referred to as a fairy godmother, so I figured that was a good place to start. And I had never done um, therapy recently up to that point. I did when I was younger, but it just wasn't really the right direction. And um, it took me about a month to work up the courage to message you. And then whenever I finally did, we had our first intro, like I remember not being able to get a single word out because I was just bawling the whole time. After that, I thought this woman must think I'm crazy. And so, um, yeah, that was the start of it. It was the start of opening up about that early childhood, um, those issues that I suffered with that kind of always stayed in the background for those 20 years, bringing those a bit to the surface and then understanding um, that side and not just dealing with the specific mental health issue. It was just the ripple effect that everything had around it about how far I had gotten from myself because of these external things that the first step was drawing back. And then the next step of my inner work journey was, okay, taking that point and now expanding that fully so that I can take on a different role professionally that I wasn't ready to earlier. So it was, I say, two stages. So it's always a journey though, right?
Oh my
It's not
goodness,
something that you ever stop doing.
no, it keeps going. I often describe it as a spiral. You spiral into yourself and then you spiral back out into the world a bit with what you've learned, and then you spiral in a bit
Yeah,
more and spiral back out again.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
what would you say, and thank you for your honesty. What would you say to someone who's like that, who's kind of, similar? I think maybe in a professional, industry, or is afraid of stepping into inner work because they think, like, what will other people think about me, or what will my family think about me? They're dancing around the edges, but they know something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
Um, my big things that I felt the loudest things in me that kind of pushed me to pursuing this was, for one, I stopped feeling joy about things, and I didn't realize that I was numbing out on certain things, but that's what was happening. And then suddenly that wasn't enough. I never felt satisfied with things that I had commonly thought I felt joy in, and just it felt like a bit heavy in that sense, and also a bit lost as well. Like you can see people around you are progressing and you wonder why they don't have the same thoughts that you have. Like why don't they feel terrible about this? Why don't they think that they can, what gives them permission to say whatever they want? You start to realize that maybe you feel a bit trapped, or maybe you feel boxed in. And it's just those little things that don't sit right. And one of the hardest things to do is, and it's one of my things I need to constantly have in balance, is my anxiety is louder than my intuition at times, and I'm trying to work on that. But anxiety is loud. It is so loud and awful, and your intuition is very quiet. And if you can just, for one little bit, listen to any glimmer, like listen and let that direct you. if something feels wrong and doesn't feel right, it isn't. And you should trust that and maybe try something to change it. Because if you think, oh, I don't feel great, but everybody else is moving forward, and I guess it's just how you deal with things, I'm just gonna, gonna do my best to soldier on. Don't. It's not worth it. Just stop and ask a question.
Well, I think that's such a great point. And I suppose, and it brings up a really great point because obviously you work in an industry like you're an engineer. So a big part of your job is logic based, and it's, judged as well by metrics, so it's a very logical industry. But I know you for quite some time now, and I know you are a fabulous, creative soul with this fabulous artistic heart. So how do you balance that in your day-to-day life, that, that demand for your logic in your job, but also that more creative, artistic, intuitive side of your being?
Um, that's that's an excellent question. I think that the science and math is so can be so black and white. This has been proven. This is how you do things. Structure, structure, structure. But what I'm, which offers some sort of skeletal structure for what I'm doing. There has to be a reason, and they can be explained why the car is behaving in a certain way or whatever. However, I'm also dealing with humans involved in that. And that's probably the harder thing to understand. And there's no sensor on the human. So you need to have those soft skills to see through, to see what somebody might be experiencing. You need to have the soft skills to be able to communicate with that person and then have empathy for them there, meet them where they are. And without being able to do that, you can't do that without finding that first in yourself. It's not something that you can be aware of and just understand. And for me, that's, you have to live and experience it. And then I can put that out there to keep my people in a better mind space to understand where they are. So I think there's a little bit of, I think the human element is a huge part. And then actually going back to the car and the car's behaviors, there are things that we all don't fully understand about it as well. I think tires and tire science is almost like a black art, and it's very difficult to comprehend. So there might be something there that we don't know. But I do know how the car is going to behave kinematically, and how load is going to be transferred from one end of the car to the other. But how the tires behave is still sometimes up to interpretation. So there was a little bit of leaning on your intuition and leaning on I think this is what's happening here. Sometimes you go out and you have to read the rubber, and essentially you look at the tires and you can tell you how the car is behaving, the way that the rubber has changed with temperature and in load. It actually becomes like a rippled effect across the tire, which is called graining, which hopefully you don't have a lot of graining, but it tells a story. So you see stories in the tires, you see stories in the weather. You have to understand how the track's going to behave and understand the relationship between ambient, between the previous cars on track, between the rain that might have happened 2 days ago. All of this is, you understand the interconnectivity between everything. And it takes a bit of creativity to see that.
And much more of a feeling sense by the sound of it.
Very much so. There's a lot of it. Sometimes I don't know what to do, and I just have to listen to my gut and just make that call. And if it's right, excellent. In classic race engineer form, if it doesn't work one way, try the other way.
Yeah. Is that the rule of thumb? Is it for race engineers?
I have there's a senior race engineer that I know and admire greatly. And he has some of the best quotes. And that's one of them. Oh, if softer doesn't work, try stiffer. It's like, is that it? It's like, yeah, that's it.
Oh my God, that's a great logic. So if you think about, if I was asking about your inner work journey, and your journey of alchemy, what do you think are the big moments in that journey for you, or the big aha moments, or the big challenges, whatever?
Oh, I think some of the biggest takeaways I have is, for one, in general, it's the return to self, return to who you are as a being, and not just returning, but accepting and appreciating and loving yourself in that moment, and being knowing that you are good enough and that you are okay, and taking out the nurturing, taking out the learned experiences, taking out the socialization, and trying to chipping away to that true self. And you get to that true self, and then you suddenly become an advocate for yourself, and then you retain your self sovereignty, and you make decisions with your well-being in mind instead of everybody else's, or your well-being. You start to manage your expectations, what you think other people think about you, and you just bring that all back and just work toward you. And it's just such a nicer thing not to try to fight yourself all the time. The
Oh,
world's hard enough. You don't need to fight yourself too. You know, jeez. Um, a couple other big ones I thought that came to mind here was a re-enchantment with the world as well, and you start to realize all the lessons that you learn just from existing in this space, and that we are not transient beings, just here for a little bit. That we are the flesh and bone, just like animals, just like we come from the earth, and we all share those same traits and can learn so much from each other. Um, and another really big takeaway too is that you start to pick up these issues in other people as well. So you can see if someone reacts differently to you or negatively toward you, you can start to read why they might be doing that, and then suddenly that takes that pressure off you. Like, oh, I did something to hurt this person. Like, no, no, this person said this. It's their responsibility. They said that. It's not yours. You might have triggered something in them, and that's okay. Maybe have some space and empathy for this person, and then don't let it ruin your day. And that's helped a lot when it comes to like angry drivers or angry people passing me on the street or something like that. It's again a version of self advocacy, but also a way to engage in relationship with other people.
that's a lot. That's a
There's a
lot.
lot. I thought, yeah. I'm a big proponent for inner work. So, hey, I push this on my drivers. I push this on my teammates, everybody. Yes.
It's great though. So, how do you think it's changed your life then? Apart from advocating for yourself and being re-enchanted with the world, what would you say? Like, if you wake up today, what's different?
Oh, I would say one of the biggest things that other people would notice would probably be my confidence and vulnerability, even to. And I had my other teammates even comment on my progress, even though they didn't know what I was doing. They said, "Man, you're sounding like way better, way more confident, and maybe you should be up for this role, coming up here," which I didn't think I was, and that was a whole nother story, which is the second half of my journey here. But I think it just brought a lot of confidence, and that I could stand my ground, I could speak my mind, and I could do so in a way that didn't waver or didn't. Um, I want to say didn't show weakness, because there's nothing, because weakness isn't bad, but in my opinion, it didn't show. It showed authority, and I became this more of an authoritative person. I'm not authoritarian. I'm not a big, pushy, bossy kind of person. I work in community. I choose to work in community. As the group, we are stronger together. So it just became more of a leader than a follower. Now, there's difference between leadership and followership, which are both have very big strengths. But when I refer to follower, I don't imply followership, which is part of the circle that a company needs to um, to honor to come back. Because followership means that they should tell the leaders what they need. Leaders get them what they want. Okay, great. And a follower in my mind was someone who just follows um, an idea that doesn't belong to them, but that is about them. And it's instead of taking somebody else's expected idea of me and believing that, I decided to take my own step forward and my own ideas about myself, and then I could help to lead my team a little bit. So I think that confidence is a big one.
That's gorgeous. I can see the difference in you, obviously, over the period, but I love that you can see it in yourself. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, what would be, before we wrap up today, what would your advice be or your words of wisdom? Like, what if somebody's listening today and, for wherever they are in their journey, maybe they haven't started their inner work journey, or maybe they're in it and they're in the thick of it and they're thinking, why the hell did I ever start this?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because sometimes it has to get worse before it gets better. Or, if they've been on the path for quite some time, like as someone who's been walking this path for a good hunk of time now, what would you like to share? What's Kate wisdom that you would like to put out there today?
um, I would say that in my short time doing this, really in relationship to how old I am and when I started this, that it's more about the process than the end result. And that process, unfortunately, is not pretty. It is painful. It is ugly. It will tell you, it will force you to view parts of yourself that you don't want to see or acknowledge. And it is not a spa day sitting there relaxing, being in your happy place. This is about awful, dirty work that you don't want to do. And you're going to feel like it's like you're dying. And in a sense, you are. In a sense, you are being reborn to this different version of yourself. And birth is not a painless process. So there are going to be times when you doubt yourself, when you doubt the process, when you just, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. It is all of this. It is a process, I guess I could say, in the least. But at the end, like when you start to see the beauty in it, you start to see the beauty in how you come about these things and what you've overcome and what you've had the courage to address within yourself. That's the gold, right? That's where you start to grow. And so it might not look like growth, but you look back suddenly and you just be like, oh, I'm not as upset by this by as I was years ago, or oh, I know how to self-soothe here, or oh, like that person wasn't nice to me, and that's not okay. I'm not going to stand for that. Like little things like that start to come up, and those are the those are the little bits that you really need to be proud of.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I also think there's a beautiful piece in your journey to go back to the beginning. And I think, it's something we can overlook. But, back to where you started, which was one day you picked up a book and something
Yes.
in that book spoke to you. And then something in that book mentioned me. And you, being the, audacious person that you are, tracked me down.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But I think there's something beautiful in that, which is, you never know where that prompt is going to come from, or that nudge, or that little go on, you can do it. And I think there's something beautiful of that. Like I'm pretty sure you just picked up that book to have a nice read.
Yeah, I was, oh, this looks interesting. I love the cover art, it was gorgeous. Like the cover art pulled me in. I'm a sucker for a good cover, let me tell you. And that was gorgeous. I started reading, it was like, oh, all these like aha moments. And yeah, it was like that little silver thread that just tiny little connections along the line, but it's like a spider's web where it's very thick and strong, but you can barely see it. And it just suddenly comes through, and now you're here to a bigger place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the amazing thing for anyone who is very logical is like trust the nudge. Trust
Exactly.
the nudge. Because my goodness, your soul, the universe is really trying to nudge you. Trust the nudge, even if it seems way out of the park, completely illogical, makes no sense. Trust the nudge.
There's so much that uh, looking back, I can see where all the nudges were, and it's really beautiful when you start to recognize it. But now it just makes you more aware of, oh, what's this mean? Or oh, maybe this has opened up something new for me, and I'm excited to see what this brings. And instead of seeing a nudge and feeling fear, it's feeling a nudge and feeling um, excited.
Amazing. Amazing. Kate, it's been an absolute pleasure. I am so grateful you said yes and decided to come along. And I know so many people are going to get such value and benefit from listening to your story. I, I do, it's true. And for anyone who doesn't follow IndyCar, it's starting next week. Is it start next week?
Uh-huh, yes, it does.
So I'm sending you all the good vibes in the universe for a new series of
Thank you.
IndyCar. But thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us today. It's been an
Yeah,
absolute pleasure.
I'm very honored to be here and very very thankful that you asked me to be here. And I do want to shout out, like, if you have helped me through my career path, and if I hadn't worked with you, I don't think I would be as far along or where I am and as confident and feeling good about myself as I am right now. So I credit you with that. And I'm very thankful for it. So anyone who's looking to do that kind of work, highly recommend because it has helped me massively.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You have been a dream to work with. And in the process, I've learned a whole lot about race cars that I never
I'm so
remember.
sorry.
I know things now I never dreamed I'd know. But it's been great. Thank you, my darling. Thank you.
You're so welcome.